St. Louis County is the largest county east of the Mississippi River, covering about 7,000 square miles. That's actually larger than 3 U.S. states. Within that large geographic area, the county serves about 200,000 residents with some 1,800 employees. This week, the county board approved the 2020 budget, and tonight we will break down that budget with some board members. Patrick Boyle is the current board chair and represents the county's 2nd District. And Beth Olson is chair of the County Finance Committee and represents the 3rd District. And thanks to both of you for being here. Really appreciate you coming in. Commissioner Boyle, before we get into the budget, it's been a real snowy start to the winter, and I think a lot of people are kind of watching the situation and the prospect where plow drivers in the county could be going on strike. I know you can't get into negotiations on the air, but can you give us any sort of an update on where that is and the urgency of getting things settled?
I think one of the first things is, we as a county board really respect the negotiations that go on between our public employees and administration. That being said, we are hopeful that there will be a very good outcome out of this. It's still in negotiations. We really respect our employees, the men and women that are with the Teamsters. They're out first thing on the roads. As you say, we have 3,000 miles of roads, 600 bridges. We want to make sure that we get kids out safely on the school buses and get people to and from work in an efficient and proper way.
Sure. All right, let's get to the budget. It's a record budget this year. Where is the big increase? Where is some spending increasing that perhaps wasn't there before?
Yeah, thanks, Denny. I think the biggest increase that we have is our investment in our Public Works Department and the equipment that's there. So we are adding $2 million to our budget to invest in equipment that's well needed. We have the ability to provide tandem trucks, which can do a whole lot of things that they didn't used to be able to do. We used to have separate trucks for every thing that we needed to do on the road, and now we can buy trucks that we can pull parts off and put parts on, and those last a lot longer and they're more sustainable and we can use them for more things. Sure. And so we're getting rid of the old equipment and we're bringing in new and better and more efficient equipment.
Is social services still up there at the top?
Yes, absolutely. We did have to, we invested in a few more employees in social services, some support specialists for our social workers to, just help them as they're meeting the needs of people. But we have seen a steadying of our out-of-home placement. So as you remember from previous years, that's been on the rise, and now we're seeing it level off. So we're seeing our response is matching with the need. And so we're catching up. We're doing well.
We have more social workers on the field with the boots on the ground, and that's so very important to help those families that are struggling.
We do have a graphic up on the air, and maybe you can take a look at it and walk people through who might not be familiar with how the county money is spent. What are those big chunks? You talked a little bit about Health and Human Services, but where does the other money go?
Health and Human Services is one of the big three. The next is law enforcement, the judicial court systems, law enforcement is the next biggest one. And the third would be Public Works, what we just talked about, the highway and the bridge system, and making sure those are cleared.
What will this mean for the average homeowner?
Well, it depends on where you live, of course, but it adds anywhere from about $20 to $30 a year, somewhere up in 40, depends on where you live because we have a complex tax system, but about that much a year.
Percentage-wise, what, 3-4% increase?
The percentage increase for homeowners would be about 3.5%. Yeah.
With the property growth we had this year at 3.5%, it takes a lot of that chunk off, so people won't feel it as well. And we're in uncharted waters of almost 10 years of property growth.
Yeah.
Where's that growth coming from? Is that new people moving in? Is it the county selling some of its land? New businesses? What is it? What's driving it?
You named a lot of it right there. As we're selling some of our leased lands off. Potlatch is getting rid of a lot of their land. We're seeing some growth, especially in the Hermantown area and City of Duluth, and some on the range. I think it's all the above.
Some of your lands were devalued a little bit. I understand Congressman Stauber is now going to work to increase the value again. Tell us about that.
That just came out today, and Senator Tina Smith and our U.S. Rep Stauber have been carrying a heavy load on that. It was about land, especially in the boundary waters, that we feel is devalued. When they took it off the county roll, they then give us supplement money that we lost. So it directly affects St. Louis, Lake, and Cook County.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that the overall health of the county is pretty strong right now, economically and in terms of where the county's positioned?
I definitely would say that. We have, with the economic growth that we've had, we've been able to make really targeted investments in health and human services, in public works, and we're making a lot of progress on our roads and maintaining them, and a lot of progress in meeting the needs.
Which brings up the county transportation tax. How is that doing? Is it bringing in enough revenues now to increase maintenance on roads and bridges?
It definitely is. It's bringing in it was over $15 million this last year that it brought in, and we've seen the number go up kind of steadily over the last few years, and we're not sure, we haven't had it long enough to see where it's going to level out. But of course the brilliance of that tax is that we share it with everyone who comes into the county, and so it's not only on our own taxpayers.
Will there be more road work done this coming summer?
Yes, there will be another $60 million in projects.
Million.
What are the big infrastructure projects that people can look ahead to?
At least in my own district, we will finish up the Woodland Avenue, which was significant. We started this year. We'll continue into 2020. Other than that, I think there's some projects up north. We got some bridges that need to be replaced. We have about a 20-year path of projects, depending on how the road conditions are, bridge conditions are, of continuing to move that money forward.
There's talk of a new fire hall for Virginia, Mountain Iron. Will the county be involved in funding that, and how far along are we?
Not regarding that. No, I don't think we have any partnership on that.
No partnership on that whatsoever.
We did build the Cook Public Works building, and we also did the Virginia Health and Human Services.
The Cook building is open now, is it not?
They both are. And I'd like to say also that the Health and Human Service building in Virginia is one of the greenest buildings, public buildings in Minnesota, if not the Midwest. We're almost running at 0% with our geothermal and then with our solar panels. So it's something to be very proud of.
We've made a lot of investments in making sure that every new building and every time we redo a building, that we make it sustainable in terms of energy. So we're reducing the costs, and then we're seeing those effects immediately, and of course long term they'll have a huge impact in our budget.
We have some folks coming on in the next segment talking about battling the opioid crisis in rural areas. What's the county doing on that front, and how are they helping with that issue?
You want to take this? Yeah.
I mean, it's a little two fronts. We continue to do the three legs to the stool as enforcement. We continue to partner with grants, making it easier for our enforcements to talk to each other quicker, easier. So sometimes we get the person selling, but then we can get the dealer on top of that quicker at a state and a federal level. Was part of it. Again, prevention is so significant. Encourage funding into that, and then the treatment side. So when someone overdoses, that we can get them back to health, get them into the system, into treatment right away. There's no cracks in services, and we're starting to see, as Beth said, results of that with out-of-home placement. We're not seeing kids getting taken out of the homes as far as we once were.
Beth, talk to us about the county's credit rating and why is that important?
Well, we have a AA+ bond rating, and the reason why that's important is it gives us great interest rates when we're bonding for projects. And so we have a process where we make sure that we keep our debt service, which is the amount we're paying back, to bonds, that we keep that only 5% of our entire budget. And so getting those interest rates allows us to invest more, and then allows us to stream that out, so we're not impacting our taxpayers.
Speaking of bonding, what do you want to see from the state this year? In 2020?
We have a huge list of projects, as you know. So we have the depot, the St. Louis County Heritage and Arts Center, depot that we need some infrastructure done there. We have a project for the St. Louis County Fair to restore some of the animal barns up in the northern part of the county. We have a mental health crisis center, completing that project. We need some money for that. So we have a number of things with the county that we want all of them, of course.
A very good news story is 2 years ago, one of our top priorities was the mental health initiative bonding money. And so far, St. Louis County and Arrowhead regions gathered just over $10 million. One for 30 plus units for placement for those dealing with mental health for housing. And number 2 for a crisis center for those to help keep folks not having to use the emergency room system, but then get them the help they need. So that's a big win, over $10 million coming to the area.
Yeah.
All right, well, Commissioner Boyle, Commissioner Olson, thank you for coming in and sharing some insights into what's always a complicated subject, the budget, but I think you clarified some things tonight. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.